Hello and welcome to another episode of WillWeekly. Today is all about the Knicks, and I have a special guest today, my cousin, Eddie Castro, and he's here to help me out to talk about the Knicks. Eddie, introduce yourself. Tell us what you do. I know you're a sports writer. Tell us who you write for.
Yes, Eddie Castro. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm a sports writer for Our Time Press. I've been writing for them for 6 years now.
Great. All right, so the question of the day is, they had a rough start to the season, and Eddie, why do you think the Knicks had such a rough start?
Well, I think it all comes down to chemistry. You have to understand, they have 9 new players on their roster this year, and everything is not always going to be nice and smooth for starters, especially with 9 new players. We've seen it a couple of years ago when LeBron came to town with Miami and the first half of how they struggled. And we're actually sort of seeing it with the super team that the Golden State Warriors have displayed on right now. So it's like what Phil Jackson's been saying since he's got here. You got to ultimately trust the process. And as soon as these players get in tune with each other as far as chemistry, I think they'll be all right.
What do you think is their biggest weakness right now?
Well, defense. And that's been the Knicks' weakness for years now. It's been their defense. I mean, they have times where they just look really solid on defense, and a lot of their defensives have helped them ultimately win games down the stretch. But then they have games like the other night where they just got ultimately annihilated by the Houston Rockets. And you're not going to win a lot of games if you're giving up 105 points a game.
Correct. So I got a couple of stats here. The Knicks are the 20th in terms of points scored. They are the 20th in the league. They score 101 points to 109 by the opponent. And also in rebounding, they are second to last in the league in rebounding. And personally, I think that's one of the reasons why they're really struggling right now. These first couple of games in the season is because since they're being out-rebounded, that means that the other teams are getting more second chance opportunities, more second chances to score the ball than the Knicks. What do you think about that stat? They're the 29th team in the league in rebounding.
Well, I mean, and that's what it comes down to. I mean, you got to give yourself an opportunity to have second chance points. And that's been the Achilles heel for the Knicks for quite a long time. You got to be able to rebound the ball in order for you to get yourself checking second chance points and to ultimately, get yourself on the scoring board. Because as we've seen how the Knicks go, if their defense is going to struggle, so is their rebounding.
Right. So they're 20th in the league in scoring, and I'm trying to think, why is it that they have a lot of offensive players that can score the ball. So why is it that they're 20th in the league in scoring? What's going on?
Well, it's the nucleus and the continuity that you have as far as the Knicks offense go. You got to ultimately understand, Jeff Hornacek is an offensive-minded coach, so they're all going to be a team that's going to score. For the time being, not to give the team any excuses, but it's still rather earlier within the season, so they're going to get their buckets. But it's all about consistency.
Got you. So I feel like Melo maybe has been struggling the first couple of games. His shooting percentage is down. It's lower than it has been in a long time. What do you think about Melo so far, and how good is he going to be this season? What do you think?
Well, historically speaking, Carmelo Anthony has been a slow starter off the gates. So what's going on this season shouldn't be necessarily a surprise to Knicks fans. But as we have seen, he has the opportunity to turn it up and to score in bunches. So I wouldn't press the panic button too far as his offensive game goes. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen.
Right. Now, going back to the rebounding, I was also surprised. I looked at his stats so far. He's only grabbing like 5.5 rebounds a game. That's way below his average. Then I looked up Porzingis, and his rebounding is down also as well. And I feel like maybe they're hanging out too much by the three-point line. I feel like Porzingis has been shooting more threes this year, but what I haven't seen so much is kind of like the putback dunks that he was doing last year, which was really helping the team out, because I feel like a lot of the players are kind of hanging out by the perimeter a little bit too much, and I like to see them go bang down the boards a little bit, just follow up on shots a little bit more. That way they could get more rebounds and get more second chance opportunities. What do you think about that?
Well, ultimately, they're going to get their points, as I just reiterated. You got to understand, this is a new system, and it's also a new system for the players that have been installed, such as a Carmelo Anthony. So as they get more acquainted with the system, I think it will allow them to ultimately score the ball and be able to change it up as far as sitting behind the three-point line. Jeff Hornacek teams back, if you look back towards his Phoenix days, they're amongst the tops as far as three-point shots attempted. So it has to be a combination of them being able to shoot threes, but also be able to crash the boards, because ultimately that's going to be the Knicks' Achilles heel if they don't rebound the ball. And with a 7'3" guy like Porzingis and a former defensive player in the year in Joakim Noah, you have to automatically assume that they'll get better in that department.
So you think they'll get better at rebounding? Because right now they're doing terrible at it. What do you think?
It can't get any worse. Honestly, they have to.
29th in the league in rebounding.
Yeah, and that's horrendous for a New York Knicks team.
That is horrendous. You got guards grabbing more rebounds than Melo. You got guards grabbing more rebounds than Porzingis and Joakim Noah. So that's totally unacceptable. I think that's their biggest weakness. I think if they start rebounding the ball, they'll get more second chance opportunities and they can start winning games. Because if you look at what they're losing by, they're averaging 101 points, right? But then the other team is averaging 109 points on them, and they're being out-rebounded by close to like 10 rebounds a game. If they were to kind of even that out, they would pretty much even out the scoring as well, because they could turn those rebounds into buckets.
I definitely agree with that statement wholeheartedly. Jeff Hornacek offense, like I said, they're going to score. They're going to score at will. They're going to hit the three-point shots. They have three-point shooters to do so. But if we're talking about down the stretching as far as rebounding go, they have to rebound and go. And ultimately, rebounding itself is going to help these teams win a couple of games, especially the close ones down the stretch.
I agree. All right, so moving on to the next question. How far will the Knicks get to this season? Will they get to the playoffs? What do you think? What are you projecting for the Knicks for this season?
Well, not to quote a former football coach, Jim Morrow, but I am going to use the word playoffs. Yes, I think the Knicks are a playoff-bound team, not to mention the fact that teams in the Eastern Conference have gotten better. But I think between the mid towards the down range of the seeding, I think the Knicks will be right there between the 40 and 45 wins, maybe even a little bit more. But again, it all goes with consistency and rebounding from the Knicks. But aside from Cleveland, Toronto, and Boston, and I'll probably even throw in Washington there, I think they'll be right there between the 5th and 8th seed in the Eastern Conference.
So you're pretty much telling me the Knicks are going to have a good season?
I think if all goes accordingly, they will indeed have a good season. I do see them in the playoffs, even though the Eastern Conference have improved. But if Rose can stay healthy as well as Noah, and their defensive improves, because 105 points a game is not going to win them a lot of games, I think it'll be good times in the city of New York.
I totally agree. I just want to see the Knicks crash the boards, play some deep, play with some hustle, some aggressiveness. That's what I feel like they're missing early in the season, but I agree. I think they could get better. Well, that's it for today. Thanks, Eddie, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and next week we should have another episode about the NBA. We're gonna keep covering the NBA, so subscribe to the channel, keep checking in, and that's pretty much all for today. Peace out.